Alright, so now what I'm going to do in the second part of the D5100 full review is I'm going to be showing you sample images of high ISO taken with the Nikon D5100. Now this is going to be just specifically on high ISO images. I will have more videos though on different comparisons with other sample images as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this turtle image here, and this was actually taken at ISO 800 with the NR, the noise reduction, on normal. And there are a few pictures that are going to actually have noise reduction on, and then most of them will have noise reduction off, so you can see what that looks like. So I focused in on the turtle's face here, and as you can see there's quite a bit of detail and sharpness and very little noise, even at ISO 800. I remember when I used to own a Nikon D80 and the noise at ISO 800 was horrible. Even with the D300 I remember complaining constantly about the noise at ISOs of 800 when it came to wildlife photography, but this is truly phenomenal, especially with the amount of resolution that you have. So the next image that we're going to go to is 1600 ISO, and it is also NR on normal. In this one I'm actually using a Nikon 70-200mm lens to get these shots, and here we are at 1600 ISO, and as you can see there's still a lot of detail in this dragonfly here, and the noise is still very minimal, especially when compared to previous DX cameras. Before the D7000 and the D5100, you just couldn't get quality like this from a DX camera. This is only quality that you usually could get from an FX camera. And as you can see, there's still a great amount of detail in this dragonfly, even with the NR on normal. Here's another one at 1600, a little bit darker though. Here we have the dragonfly in a good light. This is with the NR off. As you can see, once again, a lot more detail than the picture with the NR on, the noise reduction on. And so really I would recommend with this camera, you don't even really need to use the noise reduction until something like 3200 ISO. This is amazing quality for 1600 ISO, and even in the dark shadowy area, the noise is not that bad. Even full screen here, it looks great, and you have to zoom in quite far. At 50% here, as you can see, the quality is still phenomenal. You could easily print this out as a couple foot wide print and it would look great. Here's ISO 3200, once again with the NR off. This is in a shady region. As you can see, once again, a lot of detail in this dragonfly. And this is at 50%, and we're going to go in at 100% now. And you can still see, even at ISO 3200, there's still a good amount of detail, and this image is still pretty sharp. There is a lot more noise than ISO 1600, and in this situation I would recommend turning the NR on at this point. Sadly, I don't have any more examples with the NR on because I didn't get a chance to take them. But still amazing image quality here. And then finally I have one at 6400 ISO. This was actually taken at pretty much when it was dark out with the 70-200mm lens. And as you can see, even when it was dark out, I was able to get 1/200th of a second at f-stop 5.6. And I was able to get this picture here. And even at 6400 ISO, you can still see a great amount of detail in this dragonfly. You can even see the patterns in the wings, and the noise is for 6400 is still not that bad. You could still print this easily, you know, a couple feet wide, and it would still look great. Admittedly, it would look noisy, but print an 8x12 print of this, and it would look phenomenal, to be honest, compared to a lot of pictures. And so that's what I have now in terms of example high ISO pictures. I will have more videos and videos of sample images as well, and comparisons between sample images, so keep a lookout for those.
Another really interesting thing that I didn't do with the other cameras, the D3100 or D7000 when I reviewed them, but found out about this camera and tried out, is that this camera actually has very low shadow noise at base ISO. Now base ISO is ISO 100 for this camera, and then basically what that means is that the shadows in the picture have very low noise, and it has very good color retention and absolutely the best detail of any DX camera right now, except for the D7000, of course. It absolutely kills its predecessor, the D5000. This camera is definitely pretty phenomenal, as well as the other cameras D7000 and the D3000 in terms of how much the image quality has really advanced with these cameras. I mean, I've never really seen it in all the years that I've been doing photography, seeing a model like this compete and beat the image quality of something like the D300S, even though it is older. So, anyway, basically, this is the best camera you can get, best bang for your buck. And now what I'm going to do is go over the recommendations of who this camera is for. Essentially, if you're a beginner photographer just starting out or getting your first digital SLR and you have the money to afford this and you want the best, basically best deal for the price, this is the camera to get. It can shoot the best quality images that you can see, and then of course it's even still fast enough for things such as kids sports or the occasional sports photographer. However, if you're more into sports photography, action photography, wildlife photography, then you'll definitely want to consider something like the D7000, which is considerably quicker and better for those types of things. However, if you're a still life photographer, portrait photographer, even low light photographer, the D5100 can do an amazing job, better than any other DX camera out there for still life and low light. Now, there are other differences, of course, between the D7000 and this camera here, and as well as the D3100. But I'm going to actually be making separate comparisons with this camera and each of those cameras as well, in order to help you kind of choose which one's best for you. And this has been a full review of the Nikon D5100 digital SLR camera.